Next up, we're talking prospects, draft, whatever. We'll start with the Minnesota Wild aspect of this. Straight up, Z. Can Riley Heidt make Team Canada for World Junior?
Can he make it? Yes. And
in this economy?
Yeah, in this economy. I think it's probably pretty unlikely. That being said, Team Canada is one of those teams at this event that's like, if you do have they actually don't know what that roster is going to end up looking like. They actually put a ton of value in this camp. So if he just like pops off and has a ridiculously good camp, there's a good chance he makes this team. And I think again, like a big reason that he could too is the fact that he can play that role in there. Like if they want to slot him into like their fourth line or whatever, he can still be Riley Heidt as far as like his offensive skill set, but he does play a really good two-way game. He's very fucking physical. And he can like kill penalties for you too while giving you the offensive upside. It's just like, given the fact that they're bringing, like for the first time in a long time, this team's bringing a lot of guys to camp that even if they bring every single one of like the big players, this will be like the smallest Team Canada we've seen in a very long time. Like, I mean, even a guy like Yakemchuk didn't even get a camp invite. So like they probably still want to find a big two-way forward for that like third or fourth line or whatever. And then they're bringing a bunch of like super, super, super high upside players offensively. So could he make the team? Yes. It's probably pretty unlikely unless he just goes all the way off in camp. But either way, this is a Team Canada that's going to look significantly different than they have in years past. And they're bringing a lot more young guys than I thought they were going to, like draft eligibles. Yeah. Like a lot of those guys got invites to camp. I got to pull it up again. And like some big snubs from camp.
Yeah, we got to talk to snubs, dude.
Expecting.
Would Tisha Ginla be there if not for the hip surgery, or was the decision made before that?
No, I think that was a 50-50 one too. And you just listen to people talk like before that hip surgery came to light, like he was one guy that like he might not even end up on the team or even get invited to camp. And there you go, he didn't get invited to camp.
All right, well then I got two glaring ones, and I'm sure you have like several more beyond it. But the guy who jumped up and surprised at third overall to Z's favorite NHL team, the Anaheim Ducks, Seneca not being even invited feels crazy. And then Carter Yakemchuk, guy who torched in the preseason, looks great. It's being played in Ottawa, where he was drafted. Not even invited to camp. How are those two left off from the camp invites, not from the team? Camp invites.
It's the Yakemchuk one is specific. Like I was almost like just penciling him in, like into that starting lineup either way. Especially when I look at, I need to pull up his OHL stats this season to see what he's doing. I mean, yeah, this is great. Like they invited Cam Allen from the Washington Capitals pick, who like going into his draft season 2 years ago was looked at as like a potential first defenseman off the board. He ended up falling to the 5th round after having a really bad OHL season. He's like a 6 foot, somewhat physical offensive defenseman who's like the foot speed isn't crazy or anything like that. He's he gets the invite. I mean, even like someone like Bo Akey, that's an interesting choice over like a Yakemchuk getting all the options they had.
Super triggering for me that on the list that I saw for Team Canada's invites, they still had Braden Yeager listed as Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that hurt. Huh?
That wasn't fun for me.
That was brutal. But yeah, I mean, when you look at like their decor, especially on the right side, they invite Andrew Gibson as a 6'4", 200-pound guy from the Sault from Sault Ste. Marie, Detroit Red Wings draft pick. You also have Brunick, who's awesome. I fucking love. I told you this when they drafted him. When Pittsburgh drafted Brunick, I was like, that's a fucking great pick.
They've got someone that matters.
Yeah, he's a very fluid skater, offensively inclined guy, not super physical at all, but like legit player, very fun to watch. Oliver Bonk, he's a 6'2", super physical prick on the ice. And then you've got like Cam Allen and Bo Akey there that are both 6 foot, somewhat physical. Oh, actually, like Bo Akey's like pretty offensive. Cam Allen, same thing. So like the fact that Yakemchuk didn't even get an invite, that's crazy to me. When you just look at like what they usually have liked to do. Again, we mentioned this when Carson Lambos got left off a couple of years ago. It was like the shortest guy on the back end was like 6'3". Like they always like to bring the big physical a decor. So it was very interesting that like Yakemchuk didn't get the invite to camp. And like you said, in Ottawa.
That insane. Is there anyone else that you feel was like a notable snub? Like that you could make the case for a ton of Canadian guys, but there's anyone that you're like, I really expected to see them on this list?
Maybe it's not as crazy, but like I was surprised also like the combination of both Yakemchuk and Perek not getting the invite. And then like I think a lot of the discussion was like, can you bring both? Like, do you have to pick like which one would they pick if they want to do that? And the fact that neither, I think it's the combo of both of them not even getting the invite. That's crazy. And I mean, like historically, again, especially for defensemen, they don't really like bringing a ton of NHL draft eligible guys that aren't like 6'5". But Matthew Schaefer, who we'll talk about at some point here, he gets the invite over both Yakemchuk and Perek, who's very interesting.